Well, ladies and gentlemen, g'day. So, you guys have been asking when the Kampfpanzer 70 is going to be for sale. Well, here it is. The Kampfpanzer 70 is for sale. My advice to everyone who wants this tank, just wait for this thing to be as cheap as possible before you buy it. They have sold this tank many times over the years. You want this tank? Just be patient, okay? It's a very good tank. Okay, it's worth the money, just not at this price. Just wait for this thing to be as cheap as possible before you purchase it. There's, obviously you got to wait a few hours. You got to wait like over 7 hours or 8 hours, I think it is, per price drop. Just wait for this thing to be cheaper. When it's under 10,000 gold, then it's fully worth it. That would be my advice. Now, obviously the Object 260 and the Caliban is also for sale. Let's have a look at the Object 260. For 18,500 gold, is this thing worth the money? No. Not at 18,500 gold is this tank worth the price. In my opinions, it's a good tank. It's nicely balanced all round. It's got nice armor. It's got a nice gun. The only problem I have with this thing is the big-ass weak point that's on the bottom there. And it's a bit narrower and taller than an IS-7. The IS-7, as standard, is a better tank than the Object 260 any day of the week. But if you really want this tank, just wait for this thing to be at 13,500 gold, and then you'll get yourself a bargain. But right now, it's not a bargain at 18,500 gold. You do have combat stabilization, which is quite nice. It is quite nice as a mechanic. You do have 267 mils on the front of the turret. You have 136 mils on the front of the hull, and it is in a pike nose situation. So do be careful if you are going to over-angle, because you won't bounce any shots. In fact, they'll just pen right through the front of your hull there. You have 3100 DPM, which is very nice. Now, I am running this thing, I believe, with calibrated shells. Let me just double-check and have a look whether or not I am running this thing with calibrated shells. Let's have a look. Object 260. Let's see. No, I'm running this with gun rammer. Okay, so if you run this with gun rammer, you get 3100 DPM. If you don't run it with gun rammer, you run it with calibrated shells, is probably what I would go for. You bump up the penetration from to 273 on your APCR. Your heat is 353 and your HE is 73. But of course, if you want to run this with the gun rammer, which I do, you get 3100 DPM, which is very nice indeed. It's quite a nice amount of DPM. You have a 7.74 second reload, 260, as I said, mils pen if you don't run calibrated shells, 312 on your heat and 68 on your HE. You're doing 400 alpha per shot, 500 on your high explosive, 3.9 second aim time, 0.326 dispersion, which is actually quite decent. It's not bad. 6 degrees of gun depression only, though, so it's a bit negligible there considering how tall the tank is. But it does go 50 kilometers per hour top speed, so it is quite maneuverable. Is this tank worth it at this price? No. Is it worth it at 13,500? Yes. Wait for this thing to be as cheap as possible before you purchase it. Now, the Kampfpanzer 70, again, if this thing is under 10,000 gold, under 9,000 gold, it'll be worth it. Right now, at this price, it's not. It's a very nice tank. It's a fantastic tank, but at this price, it is not worth it. You have 210 mils on the front of the turret, which is very nice. 125 mils on the front of the hull, which again is very nice. You can use your gun depression. If you use your gun depression and you angle, wiggle, and jiggle, you should be able to bounce quite a bit of shots. You got 2100 DPM as standard, 15.81 second reload, 245 mils of APCR pen, to 310 on your heat and 90 on your HE. You're doing 560 alpha per shot, 640 if you pen with your HE. 4.9 second aim time. Yeah, it's not bad, but again, it's got a 152mm smoothbore gun. Just keep that in mind. Or I should say, it is a rifled 152mm gun. And 0.364 dispersion. So, gun handling is pretty good. Accuracy is not bad. 7 degrees of gun depression, yeah, it's okay. And 40 kilometers per hour top speed. Again, overall, this tank is really nice. It's bloody damn sexy, if I do say so myself. Especially have a PBR. But again, a lot of people are asking for this tank. Here it is. Just be patient and don't purchase this thing for too much money. Now, the Caliban, for 11,000 gold, is quite expensive. But for good reason, because it is a very popular tank. Despite the fact that the entire tank in general is absolute dog water, the gun on this thing is just an absolute riot. you basically have no armor for a heavy tank. It is a heavy tank, by the way. It identifies itself as a heavy tank, but realistically speaking, this is a TD. You have 120 mils in the front of the turret. You're not going to bounce anything. Your hull's 94 mils. Again, you're not bouncing anything at tier 8, especially not at tier 9. And even at tier 7, you're not bouncing much. But the gun is where this thing is just funny. You have a 21.09 second reload, which is ridiculously long. But you have 1650 DPM. You have 218 mils of AP pen as standard, and your HESH is 170. So I would recommend running this thing with calibrate shells, so you can do 860 hit points of damage, and you will get shots that do over 1,000 damage, which is just hilarious in a heavy tank. You're doing 560 as standard with your, your regular AP rounds. You got a 7.2 second aim time, which is absolutely abysmal. It's basically an ISU 152 or an SU 152 at tier 8 with that gun. It's ridiculous. You have 0.500 dispersion, which gun handling wise is pretty crap as well. You have 8 degrees of gun depression, but only 9 degrees of gun elevation. You don't really have much gun elevation or gun, but you have a decent amount of gun depression. You only go 30 kilometers per hour. Again, the only redeeming feature of this tank is the gun. That's it. Everything else about this tank is absolute crap. But the gun is just freaking hilarious, especially when it works. If you can connect your shots, you're doing ridiculous amounts of damage. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is why this tank is so much fun to play. Because of that gun. Because of that gun. And that is why it's at 11,000 gold. It's obviously expensive, and I wouldn't recommend purchasing it for 11,000 gold. Wait for this thing to be under 10,000 gold. If you can score it for under 9,000, fantastic. If not, you're not patient enough. Anyways, that is it for this video, ladies and gentlemen. Hope you enjoyed it. Let me know which of these 3 tanks you're most likely going to purchase. I personally believe the Kampfpanzer 70 and the Caliban are the 2 tanks that you should buy. Don't really care too much for the Object 260. That's just my opinions. Again, you can buy whichever tank you want. Why the hell are you listening to me? But I'm just here to tell you my opinions. And, yeah. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, look after yourselves. Look after your friends and family. Peace in the Middle East and everywhere else in this beautiful world. And as always, I will catch you in the next one. Bye-bye.